Can be confusing, I get it. Hello and welcome to LD. I'm very, very, very happy that you have decided that you perhaps would like to join us in this magical land. But if you're a little bit lost or just a little bit dusty, I got you. Today is all about step-by-step guide / recap with me, your host. I will be speaking to you guys as if you are entirely new, so if you're not, excuse me. This is the video for people who have discovered us and are just frankly a little bit lost, not quite sure where to start. I don't blame you. Let's start from the very beginning.
In the beginning.
The Magical Readathon is a readathon set in this magical world we called Eldia. The middle of the map of Eldia, there's this magical, extra magical place called Orilium. It hosts a magical academy that accepts students who are worthy of being there. And the readathon is just a little challenge to help us, motivate us into reading more, I guess. There have been a couple of rounds of Magical Readathon so far, and Magical Readathon Orilium edition as well, so I can understand it could be a little bit daunting starting off. So this is why we have this. I'm going to go through a little overview and what we already had, and then I'm gonna do a very much step-by-step, let's create a character, let's join this readathon with you. Magical Readathon. Let's go. At the very core of the Magical Readathon, we have the 2-month-long readathons called the Equinox. Basically 2 semesters. So we have the spring equinox and then autumn equinox. It's easy to remember when these are because they are the A months on the calendar. So we have spring equinox in April and autumn equinox in August, even though it is technically summer. I don't care. It sounds better. Fine, it's fine. We're not here to question the system. We're here to learn the system. So these 2 are our constants. We always have the April and August. Sometimes we have other stuff on the side. Like we have the Eldia Adventure, which is a year-long readathon. We had Lightfall for our festive Yule time. Then we had everything that led to our usual 2-month thingy-majingy. The reason I did have that lead up to this world is because this is a brand new world and I wanted to ease up. Little did I know that I will accidentally make this a little bit more complicated because of the beginning year. I thought we were gonna ease in, and what happened is just we added a bunch of steps. And then people are confused, rightfully so, whether they need to do this, they don't need to do this, how they start. Safe to say it backfired a tiny bit, but this is why we're here. This is why we're here. Back to the board to join the readathon. You can join at any given point. 3 steps, and we're gonna go step by step for that in detail. So we have character creation, your novice path with the guild, and then also gearing up. And then you can join whichever... Oh, this is leaving a mark. Well, that's shit. You can join whichever side you want. If you find us in August, you can still join, just pretend you did the spring semester. There's probably gonna be some people who are like, oh, you have to do that. No, you don't. No, you don't. Like, who has time? There's no readathon police. I am always pretty easy. I do set the rules for those who want to follow the rules. As long as you have fun and find it motivating to read and find a community that you like, we good. And this right here is our fellow frog, the readathon frog, called Slippy. He's here only because my Patreons asked for me to include him here, so he's here. But he is our resident frog. Because the readathon is a little bit, RPG, D&D style, so we do have a little bit of role play within the readathon. We started with this video, and this was the introduction of Eldia. I would still very much recommend you watch that video, get the little bit of backstory, but you can also read it in the file, so we'll get through that as well. So it was introduction to the world and then followed with a novice path. This is a path you want to trek to get to prove your worth of studying in Orilium. To go on this path, we also wanted to make ourselves a character, like who is participating. It can be based on yourself, or it can be a completely fictional character. So we created a character, we went on the novice path. Our decisions throughout the novice path has led us to be sorted into a guild. And then later on, we also had a mini readathon called Gear Up, which is where you get your conduit, which is your, like a wand, staff, feather, whatever you channel your magic through, as well as a legacy, a special power. Again, we'll talk about that. later. Then the next year we finally got to go to Orilium. Again, core 2 months. And we got the professions, the callings, and that is the main type of readathons. The whole point is to go to this magical school, pick a subject you want to study, a profession, and according to that profession, then you get a list of subjects you need to attend, and that subject is your reading prompts. So it changes every single time we do it. Easier in spring than in autumn, because we challenge ourselves a little bit extra in autumn, and that is again the core of the readathon. We also added some guild reputation. The diamond here shows that it's like additional things. You don't have to do this, especially if you're starting. It's too much. But this is for the overachievers who already study, already know the system and wanted something extra. We have some guild reputation stuff where you can earn your guild reputation points and then get some perks that make the readathon easier. We have Lightfall and a year-long Eldia adventure. So this is our little recap of everything we had so far. Like, this is still very confusing, G. How do we start? Grab your parchments and your quills, pen and paper, and we can make your character together. Way number one, which is the easier way, you create everything, you don't need to read anything for anything, and then you just start with our next readathon or whenever you found this. So be that April or August or a mini readathon in the future that I've obviously not announced yet. But whenever you found this, you can start from there by following these 3 steps. Let's go. Step 1 will require you to do a little bit, like a tiny bit of reading, and the file you want is the brief history of Eldia. In this file, you will have the very, very brief history of Eldia, just how it came along, information on each continent. So we have Eartheria, which is very green and ruiny. We have Dark Meadow, which is all underground because the environment is so hostile, but there's a lot of secret, beautiful cave libraries. Carador, which is our party spot, a lot of bards, a lot of festive things happening, as well as a lot of mage towers. And we have Dayrune, our sandy technology place. Obviously we have Orilium as well, but it's not included there. Then we have the people, the type of character that you can make. For example, human, very much known for their arcane abilities. Elves, who are very deeply connected with the earth and they're into astronomy and divination. 4 types of earthlings. So you have the earth earthlings, air earthlings, fire, and water. So obviously these are a little bit more elementally charged characters. Some of their, you know, abilities and uniquenesses are described in the file. Then we have Elterians, non-blood drinking vampires, if you will. They're very dark academia, dark librarian type of character. And then we have Skymorn, who do have 2 forms. Before they transform, they are this very wise orb, and then they turn into Skymorn. It's kind of a legend that they could have originated from a Melorite, which is a meteor that gave Eldia the magic we have today. We also have dwarves, who are very scientifically driven people. So, you know, think alchemy, artificery. That being said, every type of person can do every type of magic. Like, you're not limited by what you pick. This is just a little guide in case you want to go by the vibes provided, but you can create your own vibes. And then the rest of the file will actually tell you about the guilds, which is not this step. And then we also have conduits, which is also not this step, so we'll come back to that later. But to start, we just want to look at the continents and then the people. Step 1, we want to make a character. Eyes and ears and experience in the world. So we have a bunch of printables. The Magical Readathon has always been known for a bunch of printables, and this rendition of the Magical Readathon is no different. So if you do want, you can also just write it down wherever for yourself, but if you do want to have a little printable, this is the one you're looking for. In the G drive, it's called a Scholar's Key. It's basically your mage's passport, if you will. But really, it's just because, you know, there's a lot of time that passes between us creating the character and then playing the character. So sometimes you'll forget. You'll just forget. So it's handy to write it down. So first, and arguably the most difficult one, is your name. Pretty self-explanatory. You need a name. You need to be called something. For now, we're skipping guild and we're skipping calling. Certificate certification row here is just how many years you've been studying in Orilium. So if you're all new, you'll be at Novice so far. All of this information just for flavor, just for you to imagine what character you're playing, to have fun, to just have a better idea in your mind of what your character is and what they do. The next little bit is the background. So we have background and you have two choices here. You can either be urban, meaning that you grew up in, you know, a big city, or you can be wildling, which just means that you grew up somewhere, you know, in the wild. That doesn't mean you're uncivilized, it just means that you come from more like a camping, small, very, very small community. Maybe you are an earthling, and that's very common in earthlings. It's a common choice, doesn't have to be. Again, you can choose whatever you want. Next we have province, which just means which continent you think your character comes from. So, is it Herodor? Is it Daerun? Is it Etheria? Is it Dark Meadows? So you do have 4 choices here. Again, if you want more information, it's in brief history file. Pick one. It's not super important. It's just for little flavor. Now on to arguably the biggest one, which is our heritage, meaning what sort of people are you playing? Are you going to play a human, elf, a dwarf, Iltirian, let's do Earthling here, or Skyborn? If you do pick Earthling, I don't know why I put 2 A's there, we're not gonna linger on that. If you did pick Earthling, you obviously still have a couple of choices to make. So if you picked Earthling, you can also go air, water, fire, or earth. Once you picked your heritage from all of these choices, the next one is just your lunar phase at birth. So we have a couple of choices. Unnoted is just no one knows. Maybe you were born, you don't even know your birthday because you were like an orphan found somewhere. Then we have eclipse, blood moon, or alignment, because we have 3 moons. We have 3 moons because I couldn't just be happy with one, and maybe an alignment just means that they were in one line. And the rest we leave for now. So the very last thing you need to do is to pick your moon pick. Congratulations, you have completed step 1 and you've created your character. You were participating from the very beginning. You know that the next stop is our novice path. And to reiterate, we're doing the easy way here, so this means you don't have to read anything for these, and you will not need to read anything for the next step either. So let's go to step number 2. Step 2 is to check which guild you fall into. We're gonna ignore this line, I have no idea what it is, I did not see it before. But if you were participating in the novice path, you'll know that at the very end there was a little surprise. So novice path was, you know, this treacherous map with a bunch of trials on your way to Orilium. At the end of it, there was a little surprise, and the surprise was that the choices you made along the way actually were assorting. As you pass your novice path, and at the very end there is this portal that, you know, teleports you onto the Orilium because it's a floating rock. You can't just walk in there, you can't just simply walk to Orilium. So if you want to actually learn more about it by watching a different video, the novice path is described still in the first video, and guilds have a separate video. So you can actually do the whole sorting there with me in extreme detail. So I'm not gonna go through it again because it's also in a file, so you don't need to know it by heart. The document you want from G Drive is a document called Path Story if you want to read it in kind of like full, because this will tell you exactly what happened on the novice path and what trials we faced. And then also if you've read that, then you move on to guild sorting choices. You can also skip the Path Story and just go to the guild sorting choices because you'll still get a shorter version of that. So we go story, choices, result. You will have a certain amount of choices to make, and once you make those choices, it's basically like one of those quizzes you took from a magazine when you were a kid, and you will assign yourself a little symbol according to this file, and at the end we'll see what shape you have the most. If you have 2 of the same type, that just means that you get to choose which guild you want. The guild information is once again in the brief history file. There we have 4 guilds. We have the House of the Arcane, which are very much, you know, into science and experimenting, very logical. The Archivist, who are very interested in old lore and old religions and old gods and actually have a bond with gods. Then we have Order of the Crescent, who are very naturalist and have a special bond with nature. And we also have the Mindwalkers, who are all about cognition and mind. Obviously. There is way more information in this file. You can read about each guild. You also unlock a unique calling. So when we actually pick our career, you get an extra one to pick from for your guild. Gifts, unique conduits, guild specialties, and guild access. But at this stage, you just want to get yourself sorted. You can worry about that a bit later. You can read into that later. But you do the little fun quiz and then you get sorted one of the guilds. And now this is important. Write down in your character sheet which guild you are in. Write down which one it is, because again, there are specific choices later on that gives you extra choices because of the guild. And congratulations, this is the step 2. So step 1, we created a character. Step 2, we got sorted into a guild. We now have a whole family, and we move on onto the step 3. I think step 3 is very fun. I wouldn't probably skip it, but if you want to just, you know, do it quickly and get ready, you can also just stop after step 2. This is not a mandatory step. Step number 3 is to gear the fuck up. So we have the character, we have a guild, but now we need some adequate equipment for our amazing studies and adventures. Imagine this step as just like a fun shopping spree, because you, again, don't need to read anything. You get to just pick. You get to just take. So the first thing we're going to take is a conduit. A conduit is, again, an item that you channel your magic through. You don't need an item, but it does become much stronger and amplified when you have a magical item to cast it. So a wand, a staff, some people pick a skull, you know, just a bunch of things. So this is where knowing your guild comes in handy, because certain guilds get certain conduits, and then there's also a selection of, you know, conduits for all. So it doesn't matter which guild you're on, you can pick that, and then it matters which guild you're on to pick some special ones, I guess, but they're all special, you know. Choices for everybody. You do not have to be in a particular guild to pick one of these. Anyone can pick them. So we have feather, a spellbook, a staff, and a wand. Your kind of like most used ones. And then you have extra choices depending on your guild. So if you have decided or got sorted into the Order of the Crescent, you can pick a bow, quarterstaff, or a trident. If you are a Mindwalker, you can also pick a dagger. If you are from the Archivist, you can pick a bone or a polearm as well. House of the Arcane can pick crystals or orbs. So let's say that I am in the Mindwalkers. My options would be feather, spellbook, staff, wand, and dagger. For example, I couldn't pick the trident because my guild doesn't offer that. So imagine that the guild has a conduit hall and they specialize in particular conduits, and the Mindwalkers specialize in infusing daggers with magic, whilst the other guilds don't. So you just get that extra choice. So pick a weapon, basically. Pick a weapon. The second thing we pick is also related to your guild. So this is a guild gift they give you. It's basically an initiation. They teach you special magic that is, you know, secret and exclusive to the guild. In the legacy section, you'll see guilds, and it's listed, you know, if you're in this guild, you can pick this. If you're in this guild, you can pick that. So let me write it up. Again, legacy will depend on which guild you are in. Each guild will get a certain perk, I guess. So Order of the Crescent will get to learn how to summon, bond, and basically tame a familiar. It's a lifelong friend, very coveted, hence why they didn't get as many options, because I feel like everyone wants a familiar. And if you're in the Order of the Crescent, you get to have one. You get to decide what animal that is, what matches your character the best. Is it a cat? Is it an owl bear? Is it... The only rule is that it has to be small or medium. It cannot be a full-ass dragon, but it can be a forever baby dragon, you know? So you can work around. The biggest one is probably like, you know, like a dire wolf. If you are in the Mindwalkers Guild, like myself, you get to pick a secondary plane of existence. All of these options are briefly but hopefully sufficiently described in the file I showed you, the brief history of Eldia file. So definitely read those descriptions and then decide what you want to do. But for options for the realms, we have Shadow Realm, Psychic Plane, Astral Plane, Multiverse, and Feywild Plane. Again, this is all for character perks kind of thing. I know it sounds like a lot, but again, this was all during our introduction to the world stage of the readathon. We obviously had prompts with this because it was fun, but now it's just a lot to catch up on. If you are in a House of the Arcane, you get to pick an artifact. So there's Locket of the Clear Mind, Animated Broom, Monocle of Vigilance, Ring of Protection, and Pocket Dimension. Again, all of this is in the file with some descriptions. If you are in the Archivist Guild, you get to make a pact with a god. And the god options are Aitvaras, Velinus, Laima, Aushra, Gaila, and Kovas. These are kind of based on Lithuanian mythology, just to sprinkle a little bit of weirdness in there. But again, descriptions are in the file. And that, my friend, would be you done with step 3 and ready to enter Orilium. So well done. But congratulations, you have your character, you have your flavor, you have what it takes now to go into Orilium. Now, depending on when you found this and what's currently happening, if it is April or August, one of the equinoxes, then the next step would be to get the callings file, which is a file with a bunch of different career paths. So let's open a random one. So let's say that you went for Abjurer. Then over here, oh, this was my editing copy, doesn't matter. Over here, you'll see a bunch of classes listed. So these are the classes you would need to pass for Spring Equinox and for the Autumn Equinox. This is gonna be explained in the video, you probably watched it. There's also gonna be a syllabus, which just means prompts, and you'll find what aligns with that and read for those prompts. Autumn, you would read for those grades. This is how you make a character, and I hope that kind of made sense. So this is how you make a character without having to read anything, and then you're good to go and join us and hopefully know a little bit more about the world as you went along. Way number 2 is doing the prompts. So finding the time to do some of the prompts or all of the prompts, depends on what you want to do for those stages. So, you know, stage number 1 is character creation. In the G Drive, there are character creation prompts. So you can, you know, read something for what type of heritage you decide, you read something for the background, but this is the file. This is where you would look what to do there. The next stop would be the Novice path. I think the minimum is like 2, the maximum is 5, I think. So we have a map and we have prompts for that. If you want to. I cannot stress this enough that you don't have to do any of this at all. Just join where we're at. You don't have to go back and do everything, but if you wanted to, if you have a lot of time until the next readathon bit starts, you can. And after that, we have the Gear Up readathon, which has this, what we just talked about, but you can also do prompts for your both conduit and also your legacy. So if you want to quote unquote earn what you get, you can, but you don't have to. So I hope this explains somewhat. I don't want to make this too long. If you have any questions, let me know. I will keep a pinned message there with frequently asked questions. That being said, I do have a frequently asked questions file in the G Drive, so I'll also link that, but I feel like a lot of you guys already clicked away, so you won't know this. I should have said it in the start. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm so excited for you to join us. I hope this explained it. I feel like it either explained it or confused you even further, because I did go into detail, but I did want to be like comprehensive about, you know, what this is. But anyway, thank you for geeking out with me. I'll see you in our next adventure. Bye!